Hashtag Trending would like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you this podcast. Meter delivers a complete networking stack, wired, wireless, and cellular in one integrated solution that's built for performance and scale. You can find them at meter.com/HTT. Stolen Gemini API key turns a $180 AI bill into $82,000 in just 2 days. Accenture is paying over $1 billion for Speedtest and Downdetector. OpenAI may be building a rival to partner Microsoft's GitHub. Minimax launches Max Claw, an AI agent that can deploy in under 10 seconds. Apple's MacBook Neo looks like a bargain until you start upgrading it. And are Meta's smart glasses watching others, or are they watching you? Welcome to Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. A small developer team learned the hard way that AI APIs can become a financial risk as well as a security problem. According to TechSpot, a 3-developer startup in Mexico that normally spends about $180 a month on Google's Gemini AI services suddenly saw their bill explode to $82,314 in just 2 days. The cause was a compromised API key that attackers used to generate massive volumes of AI requests. That spike happened between February 11th and February 12th. Once the developers noticed the surge, they disabled the key and contacted Google support, but the company warned them that under its shared responsibility model, customers are responsible for securing their credentials, meaning they may still be liable for the charges. Now, this isn't just a story about a stolen key. It's a warning about how the economics of AI services work. Unlike traditional software, most AI platforms, at least for developers, are billed per request, per token, or per generated output. So if someone gains access to your API key, they can effectively run workloads on your account, and the bill lands with you. Why is this such a big concern? Many developers, especially people starting out or early in their development career, or who don't know a lot about security, are likely to put API keys into notes, into the code itself, and into all kinds of places where they're accessible. The security on these is notoriously bad. How do you manage those risks? Well, protecting your API keys is one way. But the developers who got hit by the bill said, wait a minute, there should be some warning that we get if we exceed certain dollar limits. And the fact is, most platforms allow developers to set spending limits or usage caps, but if those limits are reached, then the service can simply shut down. That can break applications that depend on it. You can also set alerts and warnings, but the AI systems can generate requests so quickly that somebody could run up thousands of dollars in charges overnight through theft or even a runaway program. Case in point, this $82,000 charge happened on just 2 days. And the risk is likely to grow. As developers experiment with autonomous AI agents, these systems can now make thousands of API calls automatically. Stolen credentials, or even a simple coding loop, could generate runaway costs in minutes rather than days. Now, one important thing to know. Most everyday users of tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini don't really have this risk because consumer subscriptions don't require API keys. But that doesn't mean that individuals can't set up or give out an API key. You can. Warning lights should go off when you're doing that. And especially if you start experimenting with developer tools or agent frameworks that ask you to supply your own credentials, the financial responsibility, you have to remember, sits with you. In the age of AI APIs, a security mistake doesn't just leak data, and that's bad enough, but it can also have a tremendous financial impact. Consulting giant Accenture is buying Ookla, the company behind the popular internet tools Speedtest and Downdetector, in a deal valued at about $1.2 billion in cash. Now, to most people, Speedtest is simply the website that you visit when your internet feels slow, and Downdetector is where you check if Netflix or Microsoft is down. But Accenture says the value isn't the free consumer tools, it's the data they generate. In announcing the deal, Accenture CEO Julie Sweet said modern networks have become business-critical platforms, adding that acquiring Ookla will help Accenture clients scale AI safely. The theory is that millions of internet speed tests and outage reports create one of the largest real-world data sets about how the internet actually performs. Accenture's betting it can package that intelligence into consulting services for telecom providers, cloud companies, and governments trying to build reliable infrastructure for AI and digital services. According to Reuters, the division generated about $231 million in revenue last year, meaning Accenture is paying roughly 5 times the revenue. So the real bet, as we said, is not about speed tests. It's about selling consulting and other services built on top of the data those tests generate. Whether this turns into a billion-dollar advantage or just a very expensive analytics platform is something we'll probably find out at the same time Accenture does in the next few years. Just a week ago, Microsoft felt the need to publicly reassure the market that its partnership with OpenAI was still strong. And that statement raised a few eyebrows because companies don't usually reaffirm relationships unless rumors are already circulating. Well, those rumors might have a little more fuel. According to a report from The Information cited by Reuters, OpenAI is developing a platform that could compete with Microsoft's GitHub, the massive code hosting and collaboration service used by tens of millions of developers. The idea appears to be that a developer platform where code repositories are tightly integrated with AI tools, allowing programmers to store code, collaborate, and use OpenAI models to generate, review, and modify software inside the same environment. That would seem to put OpenAI into a direct competition with GitHub, which Microsoft bought for $7.5 billion in 2018 and later turned into a cornerstone of its AI developer strategy with GitHub Copilot. And Microsoft has already invested more than $13 billion in OpenAI, and Copilot itself still relies on OpenAI models. So the partnership, if it isn't ending, might be evolving. And if OpenAI does launch a GitHub competitor, it could be a reminder that in the AI era, even close partners can quickly become platform rivals. A Chinese AI company called Minimax has launched a new service called Max Claw, and it offers a glimpse of where AI automation may be heading. According to reporting from Testing Catalog, Max Claw allows developers to spin up an AI agent in 10 seconds. A good way of saying anybody can do this with no training in no time. The system runs entirely in the cloud, meaning users don't need to install software or maintain their own infrastructure. And the agent is designed to be always on. Instead of waiting for prompts like a chatbot, these agents can monitor tasks, call tools, carry out actions, and continuously work in the background. Another notable feature is that developers don't have to supply their own API keys. The platform manages the API access internally, which may reduce one of the risks we talked about earlier in the show, exposed API credentials that can lead to runaway charges. But that only solves part of the problem. The entire point of autonomous agents is that they're given the authority to act on your behalf. They connect to services, tools, and data so they can perform tasks automatically. And every system they connect to becomes another potential exposure. So your agents may be granted access to things like documents, internal data, email and messaging systems, project management tools, APIs and access tokens, credit cards or billing systems, passwords, and other security credentials. Start to get the idea? Even if the API keys are protected, there's a lot of data that the system could have access to. And that creates a very different security model than a simple chatbot. And as even some of the smartest developers out there have learned, just because an agent runs in the cloud doesn't automatically make it secure. And given that Minimax is a Chinese firm, you may want to ask yourself where that data is stored. So, while services like MaxClaw promise powerful automation and the ability to deploy agents almost instantly, they highlight a growing reality in AI. When you give software the ability to act for you, you're also giving it access to your data, your systems, your identity, and sometimes your money. One final thought. Look, I know this is the hottest area in technology right now, and many of us are curious to see what these tools can do. But if you don't have the technical or the security skills to at least understand and mitigate the risks, this might be one area where it's better to let somebody else be the early adopter. And on the third day of Apple's new product announcements, they have introduced at least something that's novel, a new entry-level laptop called the MacBook Neo. And on the surface, it looks like one of the cheapest ways to get into the Mac ecosystem. Now, before jumping on what looks like a great deal, it's worth taking a closer look at the configuration. The base model comes with 8 gigabytes of unified memory and 256 gigabytes of storage. Storage is something users can often work around with iCloud, external drives, other cloud services, or in this case, you can't upgrade it for mere money. Memory is different. It directly affects how many applications you can run at once and how smoothly the system performs. And with modern Apple machines, that memory is soldered in, meaning you can't upgrade it later. So the entry price only tells part of the story. Apple's typical upgrade pricing means that moving from 256 gigabytes for the hard drive to 512 gigabytes can add around $200, but the memory can't be increased at any price. So by the time you've configured the system with more realistic storage, you probably have upped the price by a couple of $100. But to be fair, if all you plan to do is browse the web, check email, stream video, or work in cloud apps, and you really want to have a Mac, even the base configuration could be a good computer for you. Just remember that the real cost depends on the configuration you choose, and the choice you make in terms of that Mac is the choice you're probably going to have for the life of the machine. Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses have sparked a lot of concern lately, mostly about what users might record. Critics worry about hidden cameras, facial recognition, and the possibility that someone wearing smart glasses could quietly capture photos or video in public. But there may be another side to this privacy debate. According to Meta's documentation, when users activate the AI assistant, voice interactions with Meta AI may be stored and used to improve Meta products and services. But more than that, Meta says, like many AI companies, it sometimes relies on human reviewers to label and evaluate certain interactions so the system can improve. Reports from people involved in this say that they've encountered personal material, private conversations, arguments between couples, and, let's just say, other unexpected moments captured during interactions with the AI systems. Meta's documentation specifically refers to voice interactions, but descriptions from reviewers suggest the material they evaluate can include broader context from the interaction, not just spoken words. So to be clear, today's consumer smart glasses do not include facial recognition, and Meta says its glasses don't identify people, but wearable AI devices introduce a new dimension. When you have a computer sitting on your face, it can see and hear what you see and hear. So the privacy debate becomes much broader than whether somebody nearby might be recording you. It also becomes a question of where that data goes, how securely it's protected once it leaves the device, and if you happen to hear a little Sting music playing in the background, you know that one about every move you make, I'll be watching you? And that's our show. Once again, we'd like to thank Meter for their support in bringing you the podcast. Meter delivers a full-stack networking infrastructure, wired, wireless, and cellular to leading enterprises. Working with their partners, Meter designs, deploys, and manages everything required to get performant, reliable, and secure connectivity in a space. They design the hardware, the firmware, build the software, manage deployments, and run support. It's a single integrated solution that scales from branch offices, warehouses, and large campuses to data centers. Book a demo at meter.com/HTT. That's meter.com/HTT. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a thrilling Thursday.